have more of a break. We have like a 50-50 custody split, and, you know, that works for us well now. I walk. There's a trail right by my house. And sometimes I run, but I walk just because I need the exercise, but I need to slow down.
Yeah.
You know, and just look around and be present and
be where you are.
Really good. Yeah, be where I am. So, and being outside helps me a lot.
Yes.
And when it's warmer, you know, I live in Houston, so when it's warmer on a day that I don't have the kids, sometimes I will, it's about an hour to the beach. And so I will drive down and I'll just spend all day
by myself
and just sit down on the beach and do nothing but just sit there. And I won't even necessarily read a book or listen to any. Sometimes I will. Usually I just sit there, I stare out at the ocean for like half a day. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
You've got to. You've got to. I would be a lot worse off, I think, if I hadn't learned to block off some time for self-care.
Right. Yeah.
It's not always easy, but as you know.
Right.
Yeah, I too. I tend to just want to keep going, and it's no matter what, you can't sit down and relax. No, I've got to do all this stuff. It's always on my mind. So.
Well, and for me, just knowing, I think everybody has their different, you know, just personality-wise, their own motivations. But I realized for me, it was wanting to do what I needed to do for her, but more than anything, it was not wanting to give anyone anything that they could throw back at me, that I wasn't doing everything that I could. So it was more that I didn't want to give anyone any opportunity whatsoever. And there was a lot of things going on at that point to feed that.
Yes, I can relate.
You know, with the divorce and everything else, I wanted to be the perfect parent that was completely above reproach, that nobody could say anything that I had done anything less than everything that I could do for her in that. But now I've kind of got to a place of just like, I need to take care of my kids, but I'm human, and that's not a moral flaw, that I'm human.
Right. And sometimes good enough parenting is good enough.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think with kids that are challenged, like kids with tuberous sclerosis, there's this extra added drive because they have these challenges to try to be above the law, so to speak, or just be superhuman. Right.
Yeah. Sometimes they just need to be kids. And I think it also helped me in just for my son, you know, who doesn't have TS, who unfortunately often was pushed to the back burner by necessity. And that's been another guilt thing for me.
Got that
but
too.
It's been good for him, I think, to see that adults are flawed, his mother is human, that I have my own insecurities and I have my own, like, that I'm going to be there for them. And like, he knows that he's secure in like my love for him and being there for him and his sister. But I think it's good for him to learn that like adults struggle with things just like kids do.
Totally agree.
And, you know, we're human and that we're all going to have our limits and our issues.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how has he been with this, your son and your daughter? How's that how does that go? They get along?
Between them, yeah, they do actually get along really well. When they were younger, when she was more of a baby toddler, in many ways, he is so mature beyond his years, because when he was 5 years old, he would have to, if it was just me and him after the divorce, it would be me, him, and his sister. And, you know, there were times that like I would be dealing with her and I would need him to call 911 for me and get them on the phone. So he was 5 years old when he learned 911.
Wow.
And when to use it and when not to. And, he was a few years older when he learned, you know, how to count the length of seizures for me so I could go get rescue medication and sit there with her and just watch the clock because sometimes I just needed the extra help. And, you know, there's things I hate that he's had to witness. He's had to witness his sister being carried out on a stretcher and
it's
watching her turn blue.
Yeah.
But that's the hard part. But he has always been so amazing with her. And it's almost like he can get her, particularly with the behaviors. You know, the other day she slept in, and I don't know if it's because she had a seizure in her sleep or what, but I couldn't get her up in the morning. And I didn't want to be late for school. And I actually went in and I told her brother, I said, okay, but if you can go in there, convince her to get dressed, take her meds, eat, and be ready for school in a timely fashion, there's $5 in it for you.
I love it.
And he's like,
I've done stuff like that. Yep.
Yeah, and he did. I couldn't, I was over there, and I mean, she and I are, very close, but, I was trying to wake her up, and, she, like, slapped me away and was like, leave me alone, and put the pillow over her head, and he was able to go in.
He did it. And
use his little magic he's learned over the years to convince her to do all this stuff and do it happily. And so then he earned a little money in the process for Fortnite. And
absolutely.
And so that worked out. The thing I had to teach him through this process, particularly when she was having more aggressive behaviors, is that he's so kind-hearted. So particularly when she was younger. Now she's in third, he's in junior high, and they're about the same size. He gets annoyed with her and he'll just yell at her just like any siblings, right? And
right.
He's like, oh, she won't leave me alone. Like, Mom, the whole thing. When they were littler, if she was having a meltdown, she would sometimes hit him, and he knew he wasn't supposed to hit her, so he would just sit there and take it. He would just sit there and let her beat on him. And I would have to come in, I'd see what's going on, and I'd have to sit there and explain to him from a very young age about boundaries that, like, son, it's not okay for her to hit you.
Right.
No, she can't help it, really. And so, I don't want you to be retaliatory against her, and I don't want you to hit her back, but you don't have to sit there and take abuse.
Yep.
You can get up and leave. You can come get me. You can go, if you have to, lock yourself in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. You don't have to sit there on the couch and let her hit you because you can't help it.
And that's perfect because you gave him the option to protect himself, so.
Right. And so, that was something we had to work on a lot when he was like probably in like first, second, third grade. Yeah. Like big lessons he was having to teach to him at a very young age. So.
Yeah. You have to look at the good and the bad with it. And he will have a depth of experience that a lot of kids will not have and an understanding and compassion. So I wouldn't be too hard
and
on
honestly,
yourself about
that
it.
is the thing too is, he has his issues like any kid, but, at school, regularly the teachers are praising about like how good he is in class, how much everybody likes him, how much of a leader he is, how much he gets along with everybody, that there's no one that he's not friends with. And to me, more importantly, because of the experiences he had spending a lot of time as a homeschooled kid in a waiting room at a therapist's office, he spent a lot of time from a young age around people of various different disabilities.
So he's comfortable.
From third grade, second grade, third grade on, not just because of friends connections, but, completely natural friendships, organic friendships he built on his own. He was friends with other kids who were autistic, and he wasn't doing it like he's doing them a favor or like it's any kind of he just viewed them as like any other variation of another and realizing like, okay, they've got issues with this or that. And, sometimes they're going to get upset with me and I will just give them their space and then we'll go back to playing. And and he understood that because we would have conversations about those things. And so he was able to integrate that and then just see kids, with various differences or disabilities as just another kid to play with.
That's beautiful. It really is.
Right.
He's right past that. That's just stuff.
Yeah.
It's not who they are.
Yep.
One of my final questions would be if you had to give some tips to someone, a new parent receiving, or, someone receiving a TSC diagnosis, what would you recommend? I mean, what would have, put yourself back there a little bit.
Right. I would say a couple things. I would say, first of all, if any doctor tries to give you a nailed down prognosis for your child, don't listen to it.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing to say these are things that come along with CS, right? Because it's definitely hard and there's no point in sugarcoating it.
Right.
Really. But that being said, research, therapies, understanding of the disorder, treatments, are changing at breakneck pace and
Totally.
even have changed in my daughter's lifetime, and she's not even 10 years old.
Yeah, I believe
And, you know, Vigabatrin only got approved like a month before she was born.
Oh, yeah, we got it from Canada, and Mexico, and Turkey.
So, like, it literally got approved, and then she was born, and then next year we were using it, right?
Wow.
So we've had a totally different experience than people who have kids that are older than ours, or than my daughter is. And even now, there are babies, you know, in the Prevent trial and things like that are going to have a totally different experience even than my daughter did because of those treatments and that understanding, and even the understanding of TAND being developed in my daughter's lifetime and the importance of dealing with that and specifically understanding it. So, you know, and not to mention the fact too that just purely we can have an understanding of these things, but none of us knows the future.
Right.
And when my daughter was diagnosed, when we were in that hospital that week, a neurologist told us that she would never walk, talk, or make eye contact, and that she was going to be constantly seizing all the time. Said that to me.
Unbelievable.
Said she will never walk, she will never talk, she will never make eye contact. I just have to get on my soapbox for a second and say I hate this term because it's dehumanizing for people that have mobility issues or intellectual disabilities. But she said she's going to be a vegetable.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And like, to any doctors listening to this, I understand the term vegetative state, but please do not ever call a human being a vegetable. I don't care what they can do or not do. But anyway,
wow. Yeah.
That being said,
them fighting words.
Right, exactly. And they told me this, and to be totally honest, I can't explain this to you or anything else, but when that happened, I went into the chapel at the hospital, and I broke down crying, and I was praying, and I just remember my prayer being, don't let them be right, and don't let this be the final word on my daughter's life. Not that I knew she had TS. It wasn't that I didn't think that she did. I knew she was having seizures, but don't let them be right that there is no goal or anything for her life.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I was laying there I was face down in the chapel, bawling my eyes out, crying. And I don't know, people can make for this what they will, probably sound crazy, but I just heard in my head, just very still, just wait and watch.
I felt that.
And I didn't even know what that meant at the time other than I was just a mess because it was very clear, just wait and watch. And again, over and over and over, she has defied the prognoses that doctors have given for her. You know, when she was diagnosed with Lennox-Gastaut, they said they'll never get those seizures stopped and she'll forever have LGS. And she even had the brainwave pattern for LGS. And then a year later, she didn't. You know, she was diagnosed with not being able to speak and with apraxia. And they said that will never change. Apraxia is for life. And now she never shuts up. And because it costs so much, she almost doesn't qualify for speech services anymore. And, you know, I was told she would never walk, talk, or make eye contact. And those things were hard won and didn't come easily or on a typical timeline, but they did happen.
Yes, the typical timeline needs thrown out, but the rest of it.
Right. And it doesn't mean that just because they're not doing something at a certain age that they're never going to.
Absolutely. I cannot tell you how much I've, just held on to that. I think we expect so much of even our typical kids to, pull their crap together and pick a college and a career and all that stuff for, they're 20 years old and just an extended timeline, 30, 35, you've got time. There's time.
And also too, it's helped me to look at stories of, I think her name is Carly Fleischman, was, an autistic girl that, didn't end up speaking until she had access to a computer when she was in her teens.
The name. Someone else brought that name up recently.
Yeah, and there's some other books that I've read from autistic individuals, and there's all of these cases where there is just an assumption of what they understand, what they're capable of, what they will ever do, and that is just really, really dangerous. I remember when she was a baby, her pediatrician, God bless him, he was the most amazing doctor. He said to me, and this was after her diagnosis, we were in there for a well check. And he said, she has this diagnosis, it's there, it needs to be dealt with. But here's the thing, Audrey doesn't know she has PS. Audrey doesn't know she's any different than anybody else, and we're not